All right, it's JP Rindfleisch here with another Dialogue Doctor session, and I am with MZ. MZ, do you mind telling us who you are and where you are in your writing journey?
Okay, hi. So I am a hobby writer at this point. I have not published. I have written maybe four trunk novels that of a variety of genres to figure out really what I wanted, what my voice was. And so it's gone anything from romance to epic fantasy. I really love magic. Anytime I was trying to write a story, I was trying to put werewolves and shifters and magic in it. But I realized I like the faster pace of urban fantasy.
Yeah.
So I've
Yep.
really settled in on urban fantasy. So this is pretty much the first series that I really plan to publish. The series itself takes place in Philadelphia, where Rook is a practiced and with magic and has her identity set and so forth. This that I gave you is a prequel, which is essentially the
Hmm.
origin story. How
Hmm.
why is she in Philadelphia? Why did she change her name from Rain to Rook? Why is she hiding her identity? And how did she get her magic? So this book,
Yeah.
this prequel, which I really don't have a name for yet, is setting all that up.
Excellent. And what you sent me was a beginning and the end, and just basically looking for that resonating. Does this have the same type of beginning as it does the ending? And then like what draws you in, etc.
Right.
Anything that I kind of missed with that?
No, the emphasis was in the beginning and the end to really be focused on her feelings about Boulder, Colorado, her
Yeah.
home, that she loves it. We're about to take it away. And then at the end, confidently, she understands her decision. She completely agrees with her decision, but it's still that bittersweet farewell
Yeah.
to Boulder and her home.
Yeah. So out of this session today, what would you like to leave this session with?
Whether or not I'm on the right track, the beginning does not follow a lot of the dialogue doctor tenets. So I was breaking it for specific reasons, but I don't know if it
Hmm.
actually worked. And then also that did that resonance actually happen?
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. So I'm going to show my screen and we're just going to dive right
Mhm.
in.
Awesome. Thank you.
So let's do that. Okay. So we're going to probably jump around a little bit in this document, but I
Right.
think the big start here is what these themes are because I'm big
Mhm.
on theme.
Well, that's why
If
I
you
picked you.
didn't know.
Yep. I
um
follow you on all your
so
podcasts.
excellent, good. Yeah, so I think I wonder if identity plays the role of the starting point of this because Rain appears to be in some unique parafolk, which is your term for like paranormal folk.
Right. Yeah.
um, and it's something that she's something unique that no one else knows, so that really suggests like shrouded identity, unknown.
Yes.
She also seems able to toe the line between humans and parafolk. That again, being able to toe the line because of who you are really pulls on identity in some form or another.
Okay.
um and perhaps because of that and some of the things that she says, it's almost like she resents others for being more integrated in the parafolk community than she is. I
Yeah,
don't know if it's true.
there's a stratus that the
Yeah.
shifters and the fae and the vampires are considered the elite. The gnomes and the trolls and all the gremlins and all the full cast of
Yeah.
characters are considered second class. Because she's considered other, she's part of that second class.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
she likes to
And
poke fun at and pull, uh, go against the established elite
yeah.
class.
Yeah. Okay. And I, I know like I think that having this sort of initial want being self-focused on who they are and how they fit in
Mhm.
could help. And then what you're mentioning with the like the themes of home, community, found family, um, I wonder if that ties into the developing need of her needing to develop that consistent pull on like grouping together, finding community, and like learning that through community she can discover who she is with the initial want. And I think that ultimately at the end of the day, the final true need is understanding who she is in her place, or like who she is in wherever she grows and develops to be, who she is within her community. And I think that you could play with this in this story where she potentially finds her identity, but realizes there's so much more to understand.
And that's exactly what happens.
Perfect. Okay. So I think that how I would play with this, the theme then is something along the lines of Rain's initial want for identity leads her to fulfill understanding by means of participation, by means of being involved in the community. So it's like the more she gets involved, the more she gets to understand things that are outside of herself and identity.
And that's not necessarily have to be this book, right? This is more
No, no, it
general.
doesn't.
Yeah,
No,
this is
no,
like
it can
over a
be.
series or over. Okay,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
she dismantles the in this book she does a whole bunch of dismantling.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Yeah, so how I view the themes, it's just kind of a guidepost. And in this case, if her true need leads her to understand some aspects, but there's still more to learn, then the
Right.
understanding could be the true need that resonates through everything. Participation could even start to turn into a true need later on, depending on like how stories develop and grow. So like right now, she's in this initial stage of needing to continue to grow on that participation
Yeah.
need. And that could turn into like, I need to be a community leader. I need to lead people into something bigger. And that becomes a true need later on.
Yeah.
There could be totally different needs that get pulled on, because the thing with like the 9 max Neef needs are that they represent just human. And so like when your stories pull on certain needs, it's like what characters need at that moment or what they think they need at that moment. But your next story could be a little bit different. I wouldn't
Mhm.
suggest being entirely different, but a
No,
little bit
no,
different.
but it doesn't have to be resolved in one book. That's what.
No, no, not at
Yeah.
all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Okay. So cool. I think we're on the same page in terms of theme, which is
Hmm.
cool. I love when that happens. Um, okay, so with the beginning of does it pull you in? I'm gonna actually hop to the beginning.
Hmm.
I'm gonna read the first 2 paragraphs just to kind of set the ground, and then we'll kind of talk about it. But first 2 paragraphs. Despite the murky night sky, I strode down the viewpoint trail with a predatory grace that screamed parafolk. Above, a storm threatened, but below me, the streets of Boulder, Colorado glowed like a smoldering campfire, promising warmth, laughter, and whispered stories of forbidden secrets. The city doted on her feeble humans with fond affection, but she saved her fiercest devotion for her so-called monsters. She tucked the underclass parafolk safely inside her Flagstaff Mountain. So I love the personification of Boulder. And here's like the potential little but is I think that with the mention of night sky and the mention of storms, I immediately go to it was a dark and stormy night.
Okay.
And so I would be a little hesitant about that part of it. And I almost think that mentioning those aspects here pull away from the desire you have to pull me in with Boulder being this like personification.
Right.
Um, I have
I
a
was trying to
suggestion.
emphasize safety.
Yeah, yeah, okay, okay. And I have a suggestion, and this could be entirely altered as you would like, but here's kind of my thought of pulling back on the dark and stormy night aspect and focusing on Boulder, Colorado, of it being something like the streetlights of Boulder, Colorado shone like a smoldering campfire, promising warmth and safety. Little did the humans know of the predators that loomed in the shadows, stalking up the viewpoint trail, the true children of the city.
Mm,
Sure, Boulder had an affection for feeble humans, but her devotion lied with us, the parafolk and the monsters she tucked away inside Flagstaff Mountain. I feel like something along those lines really shifts that focus to
hmm.
what you were looking for. I like this Boulder, Colorado being this being that is doing that protection and like who is their cared for being.
Right.
Does that
Yeah.
resonate?
Yeah. No, no, definitely, definitely. I'd have to spend a
Cool.
little time with it, but yeah, it
Yeah.
emphasizes it. It almost at this point could still be third person. That's why I was just like
Hmm.
double checking. I want
Mhm.
first person, obviously, because it's urban fantasy, but so that was the one thing. Okay.
I think here, I, I think here you are listening to someone speak without the speaking, if that makes
Okay.
sense. You're
Okay.
listening to someone's thoughts. Um, you're getting introduced to somebody, and I think that it's not necessarily third person as much as it's being very close to somebody, and it could be first or third, if that makes
Right.
sense,
Yep. Yep.
because we're so early on that we don't know yet,
Hmm.
and we're just listening to someone's like internal thoughts, so it could be first person.
Right. Okay.
um Here I wanted to note here, being a prequel means that people might come into the story first off the
Hmm.
bat, and they might see words like this and not know what that means. And I know that it sort of comes into definition a little later, but I might play with the spacing around parafolk and
Hmm.
just a little line. I think I even in
You
the one
hinted at it
suggestion I
above.
have, yeah, parafolk and monsters, because then
Right.
it's like, oh, okay, parafolk are different. Um, just something along those lines to just
Hmm.
really be like, hey, we need this.
Right. Right.
um Okay, and then I'm just kind of like gonna go through little bits that I noticed, and maybe we can look at adjustments here and there. With this part of the story, I think this could be adjusted to have more interaction with Rain and the reader. This is if you want, I don't know if it's really fourth wall breaking as much as this is interaction with the reader in one way or another, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So listed here in what you have is, even though I lacked the claws or fangs of the elite class, Boulder had welcomed me into her fold. I was a scourge of the unknown species, an untraceable other king, but she had taken me in a nurture and nurtured my feral heart. So this is kind of saying like, even though I'm not good enough, Boulder loves me in this one
Hmm.
sense or another.
Right.
My suggestion here is maybe a pull on that a little deeper of, not all monsters have claws and fangs. Despite what the elite parafolk want to believe, I know this, and my beautiful city knows this. Even as others called me a scourge, some unknown mutt, untraceable otherkin, Boulder took me in and nurtured my feral heart. Uh, I even have a title, and then her very
The
long title.
mouthful. Right. Right.
uh,
Yeah.
Take that, elites. Granted, I'm no goblin either, but I found my family and they took me in. Um, because it's like an interaction with the reader without being fourth wall breaking, because these could be just her own thoughts to herself.
Hmm.
Um, and I know that you had mentioned before we started that there are some like fourth wall breaking in this. I
Right.
think when,
Even in the next
especially
pair,
when you
right there.
a
Yeah.
mouthful, right? Um, and I think that this is something that it works. At the moment, it works. At the moment, I'm not like upset by this. I actually enjoy, especially in urban fantasy, when you have these kind of sarcastic and snarky characters, when there's that like tiny little moment when they look at the screen.
Right. Okay.
um, I personally enjoy that. Um, if this is something that doesn't happen at all later on, then maybe it is something that doesn't happen here. And that was the thing that I think you were alluding to,
Right.
is that she never does this again.
I have it scattered throughout this first book. I started when writing the second one, it just didn't feel right.
Yeah.
And so that's where I was like, oh, well, if I do it in the prequel, it's only about 10 times maybe throughout the, 35,000 words. But it was kind of like, do I need it? If I can carry it without it, I'd rather have it without it.
Yeah,
But
I
again, it's that
don't
whole,
think
you can't go more than 5 paragraphs without dialogue. And so I was like, well, do I need to have dialogue with the reader?
right, right. I get that. And you know what? I don't think you need it.
Hmm.
I don't think it's needed here. I think
If we make it a lot more engaging, as you were saying, or interactive.
yeah. And I mean, this beginning, what is this? How many words is this? 800 words. We
Right.
don't have a ton of dialogue, but we do
Right.
have internal thoughts. Um and and she's not like talking to someone. She's just having these like, and you're not marking them by italics or anything, but it's
Right.
these parts of things, you have, even though I lack the clouds and flakes, like she's thinking this stuff, like
Right.
we're part of that. So
Right.
it's, I don't know, I think it's
Yeah.
engaging.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I want at the end of the day.
Yeah, what you're doing is in it's like a cinematic opening. I mean, she's climbing or she's climbing up this trail, or I think she's going down the trail
Yeah. She's
actually.
going straight down. Yeah.
Um, and she's just having this moment of reflection before she's about to hop into a bit of adventure with her brother.
Right.
And we're just, in terms of length, I think it's okay.
Okay.
I think if you did any longer, I would be like,
Yeah.
this is a
Nope.
lot.
Yeah.
But what you're doing is you're just kind of like setting the stage as quickly as you can to get into this moment. And I think that in terms of that, that's okay.
Cool.
Okay. Um, and then I'm just starting to highlight a couple things, and some of these are like deeper than others because it's just how the story flows.
Mm-hmm.
But here I found this interesting because we have this character who is considered kind of like second class-ish. She functions with goblins, so I have some preconceived notions from other stories and whatnot.
Right.
And then she says, I would bet my diamond earrings that if I missed our rendezvous, my egghead vampire would believe he was unworthy. So for some reason, the diamond earrings really stuck out here because it
Good.
almost felt out of place.
Right.
um and I don't know if this was intentional or anything, but it's that who is Rain in this situation, and like if she had these diamond earrings, I would expect some type of like commentary about them, because
Okay.
I almost feel like it wouldn't be something that she would have had
She earned them
normally.
through the fight ring. So she's an
Yeah,
elite. She's an elite fighter, and these diamond
perfect.
earrings are her trophies.
Yeah, so
And so at the end, she has to take them off.
perfect. Okay, I love that you have that. I'm missing that. um Even like the tiniest of little statement here, because I feel like that pulls in that
Trophy.
intrigue of like,
Uh, I bet my diamond earring trophies.
you could say, yeah, I bet my diamond earring trophies. I think here, because I had no idea what they
Mhm.
were, I said like I would bet my diamond earrings happily pocketed after a risky mission. So like um I would bet my diamond earrings earned after
50 round.
whatever the battle is.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
like just the tiniest of little things to be like, hold up, she earned these after what now?
Right. Yeah.
Just to be
Yeah. Yeah.
like, I would like to know more here.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So that makes sense. Because I picked up on that, and I
Mhm.
was like, this isn't normal to her character, and I want to know
Right.
more.
Right.
And so I think just that
These are her
little,
most valuable possessions.
okay, good. Um, okay, so here you'd said my egghead vampire, and
Right.
now we know her brother is a vampire, but she
Right.
isn't. Any commentary here? Like, is this her blood brother that is a vampire?
I think up above, I was talking about foster family.
Foster brother. Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
I forget if I actually named it. There's so many iterations. I might have actually deleted it. But
just gonna quick look here.
I only permit my foster family.
Okay, okay.
But
Um,
yeah, you're right. I probably deleted it after so many back and forths.
yeah, yeah. I would, only because
Mhm.
only
Yeah,
because
no,
I
it needs
highlighted
it.
it.
Yeah,
It
it
needs
needs it.
something.
It needs it.
Yeah,
Given my foster brother's tender soul, I would
yeah,
bet my
yeah.
diamond. Yeah, I'll just repeat the
There we go.
foster.
Yep, yep. There we go. Um, yeah, because they're so close. Yeah, so
Yeah.
you know what I'm talking about here. It's
Mm-hmm.
just, it's kind
Mm-hmm.
of like, hold on, why is he a vampire and she isn't, or what kind of play is there? Um, Here at the second budge against my wrist, I chuckled at the wordplay. I wasn't sure what wordplay.
Oh,
Not,
not my watch. Not
oh,
on my
like
watch. Yeah.
watch. Okay, I got it.
Right.
Um, that's just me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, okay, here. Uh, my stompy boots crunched against the gravel, my leather corset constricted against my ribs, and my bahi sticks rattled against my thigh holster. Could this description of her be stretched out and include some action? I think, especially because we have some definition here as to what she's wearing, if we could move those apart a little bit more, it would
Mhm.
just add, instead of being like, oh, by the way, I'm wearing boots, I got a corset and I got some
Yeah,
sticks
yeah.
on.
She's in fighting
Um,
gear, right?
yeah, yeah. And so I think before I was suggesting like moving the boots up here to like the boots, as she quickened to a jog, her stompy leather boots crunched the gravel as
Hmm.
she leapt from switchback to switchback. So then that part's moved above, just so we're like, okay, cool, she's wearing boots. And
Right.
then down here, chuckling at the wordplay, adjusting that leather
Hmm.
corset, constricting
Hmm.
her ribs. And then she can have that internal thought, not the typical hiking gear, that
Right.
and the Bahi sticks that rattled against my thigh holster, but hey,
Mhm.
parafolk got to be ready.
Right.
Something
Yeah.
that's kind of like,
Oh, she was
I'm
looking for
in.
a fight. She was looking
Yeah,
for a fight
yeah,
and didn't get it.
yeah. But I do love that this is so urban fantasy to me.
Yeah,
So I'm just like,
exactly.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
we're here.
Yeah.
Um, okay, left the trail and sprinted down. Because she was just on gravel trail, and this is something for me, like mentally, like I want to know that she hit pavement
Mm.
for some
Okay.
reason. Like I need that. So
Okay.
it just kind of shifts the like, okay, she was on
We're
a
moving
gravel
we're moving
trail.
into the city. Right.
Exactly. Um, so here, such fun, even after decades together. And this was older brother, right?
Yeah. Younger.
Younger brother. Okay, so I think the thing that confused me here, because I'm like, is she part? Are they part of the same clan? They're both part of this goblin clan, right?
Yeah, they have a single foster mother. So they're essentially a family unit.
Okay, okay. And yeah, because all foster family, and it's all within this like
A larger clan of
goblin.
goblins.
The
Yeah. Her
Okay,
her
okay.
foster mother is a goblin.
Yeah, okay, okay. I I'm trying to think, is there a way of like one sentence that conveys that, because I can see all of those pieces, and now
Hmm.
that you're saying that, I've stitched them together, but I'm
Right.
curious if there's almost something missing between the Foster family and the Goblin clan are the same thing, and this, I'm trying to think of where that might fit in best.
I only permitted my foster family of three or of two, or
Yeah,
up a little bit more. All right, there. To the world, I was reckless. I only permitted my foster family to call me Rain. Could it
yeah,
go right there? Like
yeah,
my
yeah,
foster
yeah.
family of two, or
Yeah, I think I only permitted my foster family of two to call me Rain.
or is it three?
Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that works. I think that
Or
works.
somewhere in there or not even the
Yeah,
clan, not even the goblin clan, not even my foster mother's goblin clan or something like that.
that would be what you just said would really define it
Define
for
it.
me. Yeah. Yeah. Because for some reason those things are so separate. And I think
Hmm.
it's just because like there's just that piece that was missing. And I think
Right.
it's the god, yeah, yeah, what you just said, which was recorded.
Good.
um
Good. We'll go back.
yeah, well, we can go back and we can grab that later. But yeah, I think that would really marry those two up. My dog just scared the bejesus out of me because she has a bone and it is so loud. Um, okay, I steered us to the paved Boulder Creek path, the pride and joy of the city. Um, why is this the pride and joy of the city? Is there something along the path that you could add in here? One or two special things that you could add in to really tell me like what makes it the pride and joy?
Yeah, it was more, yeah, I could do that. It was part of it was to kind of show that she still thinks the humans, like she's still separate from humans. Like
Yeah.
this is weird.
Yeah. Which could be even funnier too. Like if it's something that she thinks is weird that the humans find pride and joy in. So like
Yes,
I'm
that's
thinking
what it
in
is.
my
Yeah.
area, um, like in my area in one of our parks, we have this like weird metal statue that everyone loves. But like if everyone be like, what the hell is this? You know
Yeah,
what I
right.
mean?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
like is there something on this path that she could just be like, okay, yeah, cool, I'm glad that you guys love this, that you
Right,
could just
yeah.
toss in here,
Hmm.
um, that might I just want more. I love
Hmm.
having more definition here, and I think as someone who has never experienced what Boulder Creek Path is, I don't know what makes it
Yeah,
exciting to humans.
yeah, yeah. It's a pretty it's
Well,
a
I'll
pretty
have to
bike
check it
path.
out.
Not much to
Um,
it.
here, you mentioned like so much so humans usually plow their bicycle paths clear of snow before the streets. I just for clarity, I would like
Yeah.
it if you'd maybe added so much so that in winter, and it's because right now in the story it's autumn, right? It's
Yes.
like fall
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And without that, it almost for 1 second I was like, wait a minute, are they in winter? And I think that it's like
Yeah,
one of
I
those
was actually
weird.
thinking of it just because Colorado has freak, early snowstorms. I was thinking
Lovely.
of that, but it didn't.
Yeah.
I had originally had it as a freak snowstorm, which is where that storm was coming from.
Yeah.
But then I decided it didn't fit anything else, so I took it out, but left the storm, and that's what caused the disconnect.
That makes
So
sense.
it's
Okay.
a little
Okay.
bit of that editing Frankenstein that
Yeah.
happens.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Cool. Um, and then yeah, with
Yeah, the storm brewing. Yeah.
I highlighted this part just because depending on how you edit those first two
Yep.
paragraphs,
Yep.
if you remove dark and stormy, consider where you want to re-add that there is a storm coming in. Because I think if the storm is relevant, it should come in at some point, maybe
Right.
just not in those first two paragraphs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
It was originally a winter storm.
gotcha, gotcha. Okay, so this portion, when she first runs into Hosam, I'm not 100% sure if I know what is happening in this conversation. It sounds like they stopped at a trail and that Wholesome's reacting to that trail, based off of like some type of nerve. But could you give me like a little more indication that this is a dangerous one? So I have some suggestions here, like starting off with, well, little brother, you ready? Or whatever she wants to say
Hmm.
there. And then Wholesome stares down the trail, eyes wide as he tugs his overcoat tighter, something that gives us indication that he's like, oh shit, I don't like this trail.
Yeah.
And then he
It
says,
wasn't that he was afraid. It's more the fact that she's looking for trouble. She still wants
gotcha.
to pick a
Okay.
fight. And
Okay.
he's like, come on, what
Yeah.
are you doing here?
So then maybe it's instead of eyes wide or whatever you
Right,
want
right.
to
Yeah,
say
yeah.
there, it's more like he looks at the trail, looks at her, and then he's like, come
Yeah,
on.
yeah, exactly.
um and I have some more comments here, but I'm just gonna
Yeah.
go
Yep, yep.
through this first. So like, by the three sis, you promised mama you'd stop looking for trouble. Response: I promise a lot of things, kiddo. I'm not going with you. Oh, you're just hangry. Bet you didn't
Right.
feed earlier. Hangry's not a word. And then kind of basically going back into how you had the end of it with, we're not repeating the Silas incident that was like 4 decades ago.
Right.
Sort of conversation there.
Right.
One of the reasons why I suggested like by the three sis and a little bit of a change here instead of didn't you promise mama to stop seeking trouble,
Hmm.
it was he seems to talk extremely different from Rain, and I didn't know if that was intentional or not. Because he has this like rigidity to his voice. Um, so like by the three Rain, didn't you promise mama to stop seeking trouble? It seems like such a rigidity to it. And that last part is almost like a rhetorical question. Like he knows that she did.
Yeah.
Um, and so I was curious if that was intentional or if maybe he would use her like nickname or whatever of like
Hmm.
by the three sis to be a little bit more informal. And then instead of being rhetorical, if he would be like, you promised, like you did this. And I don't know his voice 100% yet.
Right.
So I just wanted you to think about that.
Right. Yeah. I was actually that's one of my last rewrites that I need to do is to nail his down. One of the things that started was it he, he's artistic. He
Mhm.
has this very old soul to him.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I needed him to make sure that he didn't sound like he was 12 or 16. He's in his 90s.
Yeah.
Like so I
Yeah.
was
Okay.
trying to play a little bit with the fact that he was more of an old soul, even though he was younger than Rain by 10 years.
Yeah. Where so he's been a vampire for about 90, well,
Yeah, over 90 years.
90-ish years, let's say,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Um in the US, this is such a weird and specific question, but in the
Yeah.
US,
Oh, sure.
because what I
Yes,
would do
actually
is I would
Texas.
look at, yeah, I mean, you could look at like transatlantic accents and like look at how like look up those phrases and just add those in here and there.
Okay. Okay, I see where you're going.
Because like for example, in Nerds, we have a character who's a ghost who is from the Vietnam War, and I do my best to like add in war slang that is like, one, I have to make sure it's not racist, but two,
Right. Yeah.
um make sure that he's choosing or saying the words that would make the most sense for that character. So instead of like, it may not necessarily be like what I perceive as rigidity, but it might just be like a few phrases here and there that have stayed with him that
Okay.
may be from like that transatlantic slang or whatever. So I would look those up and
Mm-hmm.
see if you can pull some of those and add it to like his roster of what he would say.
Right. That would be good.
Yeah. Um Here where he says, come on, you hate being late, and then he scowled but nodded, maybe add in some dialogue here,
Okay.
fine, but I'm still telling mama, or whatever,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
depending. And then okay, so that was
Hmm.
the end of the beginning.
Yeah. Dun 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 dun.
um dun dun dun. I don't know why everything just highlighted, but it did. um Anyways, that was the end of the beginning, and I feel like it has a really good start to it. I am compelled in by all of these aspects about parafolk. I'm interested in where they're about to journey onto. Um, in terms of like the story structure, I'm definitely there with you. A couple of things that I would just suggest. I hate that this is all highlighted. It's annoying me so much. Um, I'm sure it's like open in another tab somewhere. Um, is just focusing more on the Boulder aspect, because I feel like that's where your story has that uniqueness, is like Boulder's almost personified,
Right.
and I think that you can play with this later on, but we'll get to that in a little
Hmm.
moment. But yeah, no, I felt like this was a good opener. Um, okay, now moving on to the end, where
Right.
we were trying to marry up and do
So we're
that
now looking
piece.
at the last 600 words of the story.
Last 600 words,
Right,
which
right.
you'd mentioned you'd had done a few bits of editing before,
Yeah.
but we'll see like which things kind of match
Yeah.
up or which things have changed. um so here I just wanted to highlight this. We have Azrael, this new character, shook his head inside my head, because we've got this like temporal
Right.
being basically inside of a pocket dimension inside one's
Yeah.
head. um and
She is now a vessel. Right.
Yes. And basically the shaking one's head inside of another person's head is causing a brief wave of dizziness. I would suggest showing this. How does that look? Because yeah, no, it just went away. Um because like, does she grab onto something as the wave of dizziness
Mm,
washes over her? Because I would think about this for like whenever you see this in your story of like when things cause something, of how you can show that. And it can be as simple as grabbing onto something before the wave of dizziness hits, or whatever else. This is something I do when going through edits, is whenever I see like something is causing something, I know
Causing
that
something
this
out.
is just me telling the reader instead of showing. So how
Ah,
can I show?
okay.
And
Okay.
um one thing I like to think about with, and this was something from Mary Robinette Kowal, was instead of showing versus telling, it's basically expanding and contracting. By you saying causing a brief wave of dizziness, you've contracted it down to me, to you just telling me quickly what's happened. But in a lot of cases, it needs to be just a hair bit more expanded. So as you can see, the suggestion here is
Mm-hmm.
literally just like 3 or more words. It's not like I need a full-on paragraph about how showing me the wave of dizziness.
Right,
Just her
right.
grabbing
Okay.
onto something is easy.
Okay.
Um, I know that was like a lot, but
No, no, that
just
that's an easy word. That's an easy search and find.
yeah. Here, so we have new tools that we're using for telepathy quotes.
Mm-hmm.
So then we see those, and then you say like aloud. I said I don't think you need the words aloud. I think
Okay.
that with the new unique way that you are doing telepathy, you don't need that. We would know that the standard
Okay.
quotations would suggest that.
Okay.
Um, Sometimes I leave myself notes and I don't know what they are. So here, he double blinked and slowly mirrored my grin. What I do say, Rook, the East Coast Feral Lands. Do you
Why?
know what
Yeah.
you're trying to say here?
Yeah.
Why do I say?
No. Uh, it was just again that old soul way of saying something.
Okay, okay.
Why I do
As
say
long as you know.
rook. Well, no, no, it's like why I do say rook. The East Coast Fairlands.
Okay, okay. And yeah, that would be part of
I just
how
need to
he
double check
speaks.
that. Yeah, yeah.
Yep, yep. Um, so here, okay. So now we've gone to the moment, the mirroring moment, where
Hmm.
she's now looking at Boulder and she's basically thanking Boulder in some
Right,
way or another for what protection she gave before she has to leave.
right.
I'm curious, what if something happens here? Either being an actual response from Boulder or a perceived response from Boulder, depending on what level of interest you want to go. So it's either um wind picks up, or something happens with the lights flickering. I think I might have it. Nope, I don't. Like, because she's looking down at the city
Hmm.
lights again, so like, do they all flicker, or something happens, and it could, you could either focus on it being a true response, you could focus on it being just her perception of a response, or something weird in the middle that is just interpreted. But I think that having that opportunity for this response, whatever it is, to happen
Okay,
here, really, to me, that would really solidify how you have portrayed Boulder being alive, regardless of if it is or isn't.
hmm.
Does that make sense?
Would I need some type of bolder response, like the lights grew brighter with the first in
That's
the
the thing, is
first?
I don't think so. Because I
Okay,
think I
good.
think that what you could do is wait until the city responds at this ending. You
Uh,
could have
I like that.
intermixed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like you could have intermixed like tiny little signs if you wanted to here and there. It
She has
depending again.
another time right before the whole thing just goes to crap that she's on top of a roof
Yeah.
and she could look out over the city and have another, like, in other words,
Yeah. Yeah.
make this a three
That
time.
I love threes.
I know.
Um
A lot of people
um
do.
I think that could really work. And
Okay.
what I almost think of is the beginning. Um, the city doesn't need to respond
Hmm.
to this love and adoration, because the city, the way that you have it described, the city is the protector of these people, and it
Right.
doesn't feel the need. If it, I guess I should ask first, would you make it so that Boulder is quote unquote alive in some way or another?
It would be a fun play. I would definitely would try it. Let's put it that
Okay.
way.
Okay.
Um, because the time that she's on the roof is when she, for the first time, instead of fighting, she is going to flee with
Yeah.
her brother.
Okay.
So they try to flee first, and it doesn't work. And so
Yeah.
then she turns around and fights. But for the first time, she's like, I think I need to run instead of fight.
Yeah. So then there,
So
that
it
okay.
is a pivotal moment.
Yeah. And I mean, because you set it up, I'm sure someone out there is going to be mad at me for saying this, but I
Ah,
think you can work this.
yeah.
Because you set it up that Boulder has this aliveness to it. I
Hmm.
think at that moment, Boulder helping her in some tiny way, the tiniest of ways, is
Hmm.
the first indication that this city protects its people for a reason. And then here, it could be a bigger thing,
Hmm.
as like a, I know that you have to leave me at this moment, but I have protected you. Like I am alive. I
Right.
am here whenever you need me, like blah blah
Right.
blah.
Blah, blah, blah. Right. Right.
Whatever the blah blah blah
No,
is.
because that would really play into that she's seeking that from Philadelphia
Yeah,
when in the series.
yeah. Dun
I
dun
like
dun.
dun dun dun. I could work with that. I definitely could work,
Yeah,
especially now that I know there's three of them.
yeah. And I think what that does is, I feel like if you can play with this through your series of other cities having some type of soul or
Mm-hmm.
whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is, that makes one, that makes your story a little bit more unique. Two, that really ties what you were looking to do here with the rest of your series.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that is cool.
And that also, yeah, yeah. It's a nice, besides just being a nice flavor, I think you could then really weave that in with uh the themes of home and
Yeah.
finding
Yep.
home. And
Yep.
that this is really like solidifies why she's looking for such a place, such a special place.
Yeah. 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 That really plays into that would really play into the participation need with that like need
Yes.
for community.
Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah. Because now she
Um,
has to stand up for her city.
exactly. And that depending on how much she needs to stand up for her city, it could be a protection need as well.
Hmm.
So that's another one you could play with. Um, I'm just thinking of like how you could reshape other hypotheses in the future. So like participation, I think her identity, if you have it resolved here or within the first book, I think that that would be an earlier need. Um, protection, understanding is a big one because there's so many secrets here. I mean, understanding is pretty common in a lot of things, especially in
Right.
story because characters need to understand things.
Right.
Um, affection could play a role because affection isn't always about like individuals finding like romantic love. It can be familial love. It can be any of those sorts of like friendships and whatnot. Um, so like that kind of like affectionate connection to a city,
Right.
depending.
Now, just I do have a question on theme,
Yeah.
and that is, so I did read your book, loved it.
Oh,
I
thanks.
the question
Thanks.
I had is like she has deep faith
Yeah.
in the mighty flames, and it is a paranormal god, shall we say?
Yeah.
Um, when like the next book is pretty much I don't know who I am at the moment. All I know, I now know my heritage and I've got my faith. I don't know anything else. Like where
Yeah.
who am I? And that's going to be
Yeah.
like a series of four novellas of like figuring out who is she going to be.
Yeah.
Does faith as a theme, where does that fall in the needs?
In, to me, it falls in between the realms of identity, participation, and potentially understanding. And the
Okay,
reason is, who am I in this faith?
right.
How do I fit in with what I personally believe versus the doctrines of whatever this is?
Hmm.
Participation, almost all faith is very dependent on community. It's very
Yes.
dependent on finding others who have similar thoughts so that you can share stories with each other, so that
Hmm.
you can build that like basically connection with each other.
Right.
And then understanding, because there's the realm of like we don't know what we don't know. There's like the need for deeper understanding by reading the doctrines and trying to correlate that with your life and everything like that. So I feel like, and understanding is kind of like that undertone, because I feel
Right.
like the stronger things are identity and participation.
Right. Okay. Because it's kind of similar to where does, the trusting of the magic or the trusting of the faith, that trust
Yeah.
issue. And it seems like that from a need perspective, I was trying to map, where does trust come in?
Trust in
The
the
unseen, for example.
faith.
Well, trust in the unseen, just keeping it a little bit more broad. So you've got your magic systems, you've got your religious systems, and a lot
Hmm.
of times you find is that you have to trust fate. Even, you have a lot of those type of stories, and so I was curious where that falls in with the hypothesis, because
Yeah,
a lot
I
of
think.
times you end up having to trust the unseen
Yeah,
in order to progress. So I didn't know if, so it's a little bit participation, it's a little bit because you have to act, not just think. You have to,
yeah,
but you have to have at least a little bit of understanding, but then the resolution that you're never going to understand.
yeah, yep, yeah. I mean, the one thing that I I want to explore more with the story hypothesis is the loss of needs, or the inverse, because not all stories have the attaining of needs. Sometimes they have the loss of them, or the
Uh,
acceptance that one can't attain them. But that's like, I'm still have no
yeah.
idea where that's gonna go. But I think that you're onto something where it comes into like what is blind faith versus um truly understanding what it is. And
Hmm.
I think that that's the interplay that you're getting at, is like the willingness to accept without understanding, and how much one needs to understand in order to blindly believe in certain things. And I think
Right.
that that really falls in that understanding need.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Because you see that a lot with magic systems. Some
Yeah,
of them
yeah,
that are the more squishy kind, not the one with all the
yeah,
rules, but you got
yeah,
those of, you know, um, invoking spirits or invoking
yep,
the magic, but you know that it's a little on the chaotic side, and you know that but at the same time, it's that developing of the faith in it,
yep,
um, or the trust in it, kind of the same. I kind of use those interchangeable. So
yeah,
that was one thing I did have a question on your book.
yeah. I hope that helps. What?
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, it
because
did. It did.
good.
Yeah, no, no.
um, yeah, because like how I would think of that is like, if I were a character and I was using magic that I could not understand, um, and I had to just blindly believe in it, then it depends on what that story is about. Is that
Hmm.
story about me questioning and being like, okay, cool, I can summon demons, but like, they every time they appear, they're screaming. Like,
Right.
that seems like a problem. And
Right.
now I need to understand that. So then I feel like as a character, I would be compelled on that understanding need. If I'm like, oh, okay, well, they're screaming, but I really need to focus on my love relationship over here. I'm not pulling on that need at all. I'm just like, oh
Right.
well, I'm sure you're tormented somehow, but I need you to do
Right.
this thing for me. So
Right.
yeah, I think a intermix of understanding, and depending on like what levels of understanding you'd have.
Hmm. Cool.
Um, okay. So we've reached the end of the document you sent me, but
Yeah.
I did make I have to move this thing because it's always in the way. I did make a potential like dialogue sheet to start off of. Um, and I apparently can't spell rain, which,
No.
is a
Hey.
talent of mine. But I wanted to look at how to use this voice design sheet, and
Hmm.
then let kind of give it to you and build off of it in whatever way you would like. So when Jeff and I use this for nerds, I think I've said this in like every single recording, but it's important. Um, we used this, we built our cast of characters, and I never looked at it again. Because to me, what this did is it just solidified a couple things, and then I just had it in my head. So this is not something that like I personally use day in and day out when I write. It's something that I have as a potential reference for the future if I need it. So it's going to depend on however you want to use it, but I made this so that if you want to use it, you can.
Cool.
Um, so for Rain,
Hmm.
I kind of picked up that she was protective, confident, playful, resilient, and sentimental. Um, I don't know if any of those don't align. or if those do align with her character.
Yeah, I've never thought of her as sentimental. So, but she has such a deep connection with Boulder and her family. So that would I could see how that definitely came out. Definitely the resilient, the playful would almost be closer to like reckless. She
Yeah.
lives up to her
Okay.
name. But yeah.
I think we should just change that because I totally agree. Very reckless.
Yeah.
Notes on voice, casual, meaning that
Uh-huh.
she would swear up
Yeah,
a storm if she really wanted to.
yep, yep.
Uh,
Well, her faith would
um,
probably yeah, she chooses others. But yeah, go ahead. No, but definitely casual
affectionate.
with
Um,
nicknames. Yeah. If she gives
yeah,
you a nickname, your friend.
good, good. Assertive, reflective, and sarcastic.
Yep. Yep.
Um, cool. And then kind of like a baseline modulation from what I picked up on these the first and
Hmm.
last is using slang, nicknames, strong assertive language,
Hmm.
her body language being this like tall and confident
Hmm.
and gesturing with hands. I feel
Hmm.
like she has that fluidity to her. Um, so if that's true, I would look at like how she can be a little bit more physically expressive when she does things. So that could be when she's talking to her brother, punching his shoulder,
Yeah,
resting her,
she does that a lot. Yep. No, perfect.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
exactly what she does. She's
good.
not. Yeah.
um
A lot of hip
Cadence,
checks.
yeah. Cadence wise, I could see her being
Yeah.
upbeat, rhythmic,
Hmm.
sometimes having this like rapid and sharpness to the way that she speaks, but she's she's really like a controlling of the conversation. She's probably the one that's more likely to start and is more likely to fill dead air. So
Hmm.
if it's an awkward silence, she'll probably fill that space.
Yes. Yes, definitely.
Um, is there any other notes about her voice that you feel might be missing?
She uses simple words. It doesn't come up. It comes up here only hinting at it, but you find in the first chapter she can't read. So she deep down feels stupid,
Yeah, that's
and you
good
find
to
out
know.
why in
Yeah,
chapter by the middle of the book you find out why.
yeah,
And it doesn't change. It's not like it magically. She will always be able to read human language.
gotcha.
Um, and the other one is she's very much she reacts first. So she's a ready, fire, aim, and as a result, she'll say stuff that sometimes she regrets. So it's very she's very instinctual. She goes through um, it, as a type 8 enneagram.
Okay, okay,
She feels before she thinks. She is yeah.
okay, cool.
So that yeah.
Um, yeah, and then I I didn't do any other modulations, but what I would think
Mhm.
about is what that baseline is and then how that
Mhm.
might change when she talks to her brother in alone in a room versus
Yeah.
when she is up against a foe and has to, you just think about like how that might slightly change, but always returning back to baseline.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah. Yeah. She's
and then
softer with her
wholesome.
brother because he's tender,
Yeah, yeah.
and then she's super
Um
snarky.
yes, yes. So okay, so with wholesome, I have notes on personality: cautious, loyal, sensitive, analytical, reserved.
Yeah, that I need to change because he's definitely I want he was more artistic.
More
So
artistic. Okay.
yeah, so not analytical. Old soul.
What do you know what Enneagram he is?
4.
I don't know Enneagram that well, but I will
Okay. Yeah.
write that
It's
for you for later.
right. Yeah, no, no, no. This is the one that I have to go back and clean up because
Yeah.
he's inconsistent because I did
Yeah.
have him start off as analytical. So it's interesting that you picked
Gotcha.
that up, that I haven't cleaned that up enough yet.
Um okay, so then notes on voice: questioning, genuine, formal, concerned, and reluctant.
Yeah,
How do
that's
those
where
fit
I
in?
do I need to study this one a little bit more.
Yeah.
He's the one
Okay.
that I don't have a firm uh definition, should we say. The
Yeah. Yeah,
rules,
that
the
makes
written
sense.
rules. That would be the
Yeah.
way to say it. I don't have the written
Okay.
rules down yet.
Okay. Yeah, what I would recommend then is especially with this one and with a grain of salt from the things that I have written here, if there are changes, I would look at what you sent me and see why I would have suggested that way and
Exactly.
how
Yeah.
you could, yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I feel like
that
you picked up on that, but I wanted it
right.
verbal.
Verbalize it for the class.
Well, for me
Yeah.
mostly. Um, okay, so for word choice, I have currently clear and direct, polite terms, cautious and hesitant language.
Yeah, that needs to change.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Body language of being guarded and almost defensive, which again, I think that that's going to
Mhm.
depend on what his character is, but like minimal
Right.
gesturing in comparison to Rain and avoiding eye contact as opposed to her like constant eye contact.
Hmm.
Um, Cadence of being steady and even hesitating or taking pauses when conflicted, and then pacing being measured and deliberate. I
Right.
think if you're going to go the route of artistic with an old soul, some of these would match, but I think it
Yeah.
depends on how colorful and expressive he is with his art
Right.
versus that like this is my art kind of thing.
Yeah. And that's where now that I've gone through a full book and starting on the second one, I realized, okay, I need to nail him down. That was the part
Yeah.
of it because I had him. I mean, eh, I had him originally that analytical as
Yep.
being the contrast, but it doesn't fit him. So that's
Yeah.
the
Yeah, it happens.
yeah, I know. Like, wait a minute. Yeah, you're supposed to follow my lead. But no.
Yeah.
He's like,
Yeah, it
no, I don't want
happens.
to be that.
Yeah, I
So
want to be
that's
something different.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm working that part out. So that's helpful
Cool.
because that's
Cool.
it shows that it's what I'm portraying
Yeah.
isn't coming across. So that's great. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I appreciate all the
Cool.
time you put on this.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so I'll share those things with you
Right.
after this. Also, I'll put this video in a full file for you to grab later.
Okay.
Um, is there anything that we didn't hit on that you wanted to discuss?
No, that was pretty much the main stuff. So I appreciate it.
Cool. All right. Well,
All right.
then I'll stop the recording there and
All right.
thank you.
You bet.
Define the stop.